So we'll be going over two short paragraphs from this book. It's called Hakdamot Sulam. It's Introductions of the Sulam. It was released this year, and it's articles that have never been released before from Bala Sulam. So let's go for this. Number 3, the crazy, the intellectual. From Bala Sulam, from the book Hakdamot Sulam, Essay of the Mediating Teacher. The externals imagine to themselves that the prophet or the Kabbalist has hallucinations and is crazy. This issue is required and must be so to the eyes of most of the world. This is written about Yehu, the son of Nishmi. Have you seen that crazy person? The reason is because the crazy person does not want to restrict itself in any way in the border that people define for themselves. Rather, all their work and goal is to be out of the ordinary. Therefore, anyone who wants to reach adhesion with the Creator, immediately his goal is above the collective, because this desire is not in the generality of humanity. Also, his work is above the collective. Therefore, to the wise of the externals, he is considered an imaginative and crazy person, since he is like the crazy that are outside of the normal collective. The difference is that the actual crazy person is below the society, while the worker, the Kabbalist, is above the society. So what do you think about that?
I mean, first of all, it's amazing. It's talking about two different edges right there, you know, like above society and below society, you know, like you seek to be out of the ordinary because you know you are, you know?
Yes.
I love it.
One of the things I liked about this article was the concept that sometimes you do feel crazy. You feel that the society is going one way and you are as if going another, but you're not going the way of humanity. You're going somewhere that has not been treaded before, and then you start to get these feelings of what's happening with me, and then these sort of these paragraphs, these articles from Kabbalists who have already gone through these stages, they actually help you feel more secure in your path, because you feel like, okay, so I'm not going out of my mind. Well, I am, but it's okay to go out of my mind. I'm actually trying to reach a higher state than what the rest of the society or humanity is trying to reach.
Okay, so, but it's the second paragraph. Therefore, anyone who wants to reach adhesion with the Creator immediately, his goal is above the collective. This is going to happen multiple times, and it's going to happen from phase to phase, degree to degree, or like I'm just trying to say, how are we going to get away from the society, and are we further going to get away, and are we going to be called even crazier as we develop? Are we just a little crazy at first, and then we become very crazy later on in the eyes of those who don't want to advance? Things and stuff.
So the idea is that you normally, when you're going in these stages, you're going to probably keep it to yourself or only to people that are, becoming crazy as well, which want to become Kabbalists. So you're not going to go to, just like you're not going to go to someone in the humanity and say, oh, you know what, I want to become the Creator. It's like, yep, go to an institution of crazy people. So you're not going to go to them and say, yeah, I'm going to become, Mom and Dad, I've got a new goal in life. I want to become the Creator. What do you think about that? And they'll be like, oh, what have we done? We've raised, we've got a crazy kid. Like, you're not going to do that. So the idea is the same thing. You're not going to go to the society and tell them that's your goal. You're going to sort of find who is aligned with that goal of becoming Creator and basically talk with them. But the idea is that inside you're going to feel that you're becoming more and more distanced from the society and humanity, and therefore you're going to feel that you're becoming crazy and crazy. Like, what? I'm only one of the few that actually have this goal. Like, nobody else wants this goal. And even if I try to talk to them about it, it just like goes right over their heads. Like, how can it be? It must be I'm crazy. And then when you find, some other lunatics with you, and then, you become a group of crazy people.
Well, so we all get different experiences. Like, if we go to Baal HaSalam's life, that guy kind of got it a little bit rough. So I'm just wondering when our state that we can't really control starts to act out, and how those actions are going to be perceived by people in other states, and there's going to be no ability for that conflict to be avoided. Even if somebody tries to act through other people, you're still going to notice that there is a little bit of conflict. So I'm just saying, I get called crazy all the time, and the degree of insults that I have now compared to what I used to get are significantly a lot more fun. So I'm just saying.
But that's part of the path, is to test you to see if you really are willing to let go of the structure of reality and not be affected by what people think. Because truth can't find truth if it's concerned about what other people are thinking. It will always be swayed to someone else's path or opinion.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm having a hard time dealing with that as well. Like, but at the end of the day, you got to look at everyone below you like angels, right? Like, no free choice. And that you have to be, you're talking with the children. It's really what it comes down to. I mean, so be caring in that way, right?
Exactly. You have to be accepting. It's like, you don't go to kids and start talking to them about sex. Like you have to keep that separation of the degrees. You don't go to your 3-year-old and start talking to them about mortgages or how your boss is giving you a hard time with accounting. Like you've got to respect every phase. And if people are with you in your phase, that means they're like coworkers. So you can talk to them about work. But you don't go back home and start telling your wife about it if she's not in that phase. If she doesn't care about it, why are you going to tell her about your problems? Like, oh, I had a complex algorithm problem at work with my, with the program. It's like, and she's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Nah, I don't care. And you have to respect that. So the same is that you have to respect phase 2 of the society, that they're only interested in the meaning of life and not interested in the power. And so you have to be like, when you're in phase 2, like when I go to the main Jerusalem group or the young group, I talk to them about meaning. I don't talk to them about power. I don't start saying, yeah, I want to become the creator, the most powerful being on earth. I talk to them about like, the creator, and meaning in life. And yes, we're meant to serve the society. You have to talk in the phases that you're dealing with. But when I'm talking to someone in phase 3 or phase 4, I'm not going to talk to them like that. I'm going to talk to them about power. Yeah, how do we empower each other? How do you gain discernments? Like that's what they want to hear. So you have to know who you're talking to and how to communicate with them.
Well, I guess the point. Sorry, I'm just really not being clear. So if we look at Abraham's life and we see how he came into a major conflict with the society that he was in, and that came to a head with Nimrod, we see something. When we look at Moses' life, we see how even being born and loving the society that he was in, feeling as if he was one of them to the point where he felt as if he was royalty in that allegory, yet he's face to face with Pharaoh in the end and definitely goes through some turmoil. We look at Rashbi's life and we see what he went through to really further the world, not exactly pretty. And this goes on and on and on in special Kabbalist. So I'm just curious how, when it's all said and done, how that body's work is received and how we notice that some of these people definitely went through some tough times, and it does appear to be a compliment.
There's two things. One, there's an article, I think in Shamati, where it talks about that the advantage of people causing problems to a Kabbalist is it reduces that hold that he gets, you could say, filling from the world. So the amount of filling he gets, he will get the turmoil in the exact amount of measure to sort of equalize. So he's like, yeah, I like the world because I'm getting filling and all my students are loving me and everything's great. But look at the turmoil I'm getting at the same time, so I'm not too connected. Because pain always disconnects you, and enjoyment, pleasure connects you to the situation. So you have that play between pain and pleasure in order to make sure that you're not totally tied in. The second thing I would say is that this is definitely the generation where we're going through a shift. So we can see in our generation the amount of nonsense And the amount of differentiation that is allowed, there's much more allowance for that. So when Balusalam was in his society, he was, thrown out and caused lots of problems. There was no concept like, I'm here in a certain place. No one in this entire city knows about me, but here I am talking to you, miles and miles away. And so there's that change of communication where I can go outside. I can go to only the people that actually care about it. Well, beforehand, I had to broadcast in a way that everyone knew about it, and then there were many opposers and people that didn't like it. Here, I only target the people that I want in the first place, like on Facebook. I add the people that I want. Most of the people aren't even aware of it, don't even fall on it, have no clue about it. So it's not like I'm going in the street and broadcasting newspapers everywhere of who am I. So this can only be done in this generation because of the communication network, where each community in each society can deal with a certain issue and deal with it. There's like probably thousands and millions of groups and stuff which we're just not even aware of, and we don't even know their names or what they're doing or anything. That allows for much less turmoil that was never possible in previous generations. If you were in a society, your only way of getting to know anyone was by broadcasting, and then you get all the people who didn't like it, they would arise against you. But if you can, like when I go to the Jerusalem group, I don't start telling this about oh yeah, I'm writing, sometimes I say, oh, I'm writing articles, but that's about it. So I just give them the most generic view of what I'm doing with no details, and no one cares. And here I am talking, a few times a week with a group of people and no turmoil whatsoever. So I feel that this is the generation that is built for this because of this communication network, which can allow only the people that I want to target, I can target, and the people that won't like it will just ignore it. It's not in their face. And so there's less resistance, there's less turmoil.
I like that. No less resistance and less turmoil. That's a good result.
Well, it gets really cool in the second paragraph. It's got a double meaning here, though. Therefore, anyone who wants to reach adhesion with the Creator, immediately his goal is above the collective. Fine. So it's talking about the general of humanity, but it also feels like it's talking about the collective of the society. So as our goal advances and we go through all these phases, we're just anything there? Is there something between the general humanity and then the collective of the society? And I don't know, just go through it.
So it goes on each level. So the collective can be from humanity to the spiritual society to the group even. So someone in phase 4 of the individual will have conflict with the group. So when he's in the group, he can't talk about how he doesn't need the group. He can individually grow. He can reach it by just getting discernments from the group, but doesn't actually, as a group, have to grow together. And that's something that the group normally opposes. Like, I thought we're all in this together. Well, you don't need me anymore. So the group doesn't like that kind of talk. So with the group, you have to be more lovey-dovey, like, oh, we're going to all do this together. We still want to become the creator, but we're going to do this together. And then the individual's like, no, I'm going to reach it alone. Like, if you guys are a little slow for me, I'm leaving you. So it means I'm still going to be with you and still do everything. But from my perspective, from my perception, I'm going to reach this alone. And that is in opposition to phase 3. And phase 3 does the same with phase 2, where phase 2 comes and says, you have to do everything that BB says, and you have to just follow our materials. And phase 3 says, we're going to try do some of our own stuff. We're going to use BB material, but we're going to incorporate, we're going to do some system articles, we're going to do some stuff, some diagrams and stuff. And phase 2 comes back and it's like, hey, we're not agreeing with this. It's altruism without self-benefit. You have the management at the top, and they decide everything, and it goes down like a broadcasting model. And the person at the bottom has no response. He can't go back and say, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to cut, cable and watch what I want on YouTube. Phase 2 doesn't like that. Well, phase 3 is like, I can choose whatever I want to watch. So you can see in every single phase, it's in opposition to the upper phase. So then every time your goal becomes above the previous collective of that phase.
And so will the lower phase always think the upper phase is crazy? That's really difficult if you don't have a group, though, and you are going alone and you're trying to talk to other people about what your perceptions are, and they will think you are really crazy, delusional. So
That's right.
a group is good in that you at least are in an environment that all are going the same way, if that makes sense. Your goal is the same. And so even if you are above someone else and they don't have your perception, or if you are below someone else and they're telling you something that you don't understand, at least you know that your intention is, both your intentions are the same.
Exactly. That's why group is very important, because it becomes an environment where you can check how crazy you are and sort of find other people on your level of craziness. And you can actually share discernments like, whoa, I'm just going through the stage. And he's like, oh, yeah, I already went through that. You know, you're at 3.1. I'm already at 3.3. I've been that. Let me help you. It's fine. It's part of the, because we want all the time security to know that what we're experiencing is part of the path. And we're always afraid, wait a second, maybe I'm experiencing something which is bad. And then you need someone basically on a higher, who's already experienced it, saying, no, don't worry, it's part of it. You know, it's like someone who's going through adolescence and has no clue, like his body's changing, he's growing, and he's like, oh my God, maybe I'm like becoming, you know, this amorphous mass of something. And it's like the adult comes and says, don't worry, it happened to me too. Yeah, you know, this grows a bit more than that grows. And in the end, it all sorts itself out. And you're like, phew, oh, I'm relaxed now. I understand that it's actually part of the process. And that's where the group helps.
In the beginning, when you are, if your perception is much higher than someone else's, in the group, say the group is, you're above the group. And so you really don't have a sounding board there to give you any, what do I want to say? It's difficult if you are above others that don't have an inkling to what you are going through.
So that's why you have people also in the individual.
Except maybe the teacher, but not very, that's difficult.
Also on the individual stage, you have friends, but they're not a group. So the idea is on the individual phase, you'll have individuals
Yes.
that also want to reach it, and you are friends with them. So you're
Yes.
not a group anymore. It's not a group setting. It's not like, oh, we're all going to meet together, but rather you meet as individuals. You'll call a specific member one time, and you'll call another specific member another time. So you still have a sounding board. You still have someone to take you up all the levels, and you're growing with those individuals now, and the group is behind. The society is even more behind, and humanity is behind that as well. So you have all those phases, and you need all four of them to actually pass the barrier, because you get important discernments from each one. So you can't be like, oh, I'll leave the group, I'll leave society, I'll leave humanity, and I'll only focus on my close friends, which are the individuals. You need the discernments from all the faces, because after the barrier, you're going to go back and start bestowing to them. And you can't bestow to them if you don't have any discernments on who they are and what they expect. You know, you just can't come back and say, you know, oh, I'll just give everybody the same. I'll just bestow to everyone the same stuff. No, each phase requires a different handling. So you need to collect those discernments before you pass the barrier. So then after, when you pass the barrier, you can then know how to give to each people. So if you pass the barrier, you'll tell the individuals maybe that you passed, but you won't tell the group. And you, of course, won't tell society, and you definitely won't tell humanity.
I think Moshe wanted you to read it again.
Oh, you want to read it again? Okay.
Well, I didn't know you have another one. You have another one?
Yeah, I have another one, but we have enough time. So let's read this again.
Why not?
3. The Crazy, the Intellectual, from Bala Sulam, Akdamata Sulam, Essay of the Mediating Teacher. The externals imagine to themselves that the prophet or the Kabbalist has hallucinations and is crazy. This issue is required and must be so, to the eyes of most of the world. This is written about Yehud, the son of Nishmi. Have you seen that crazy person? The reason is because the crazy person does not want to restrict itself in any way in the border that people define for themselves. Rather, all their work and goal is to be out of the ordinary. Therefore, anyone who wants to reach adhesion with the Creator, immediately his goal is above the collective, because this desire is not in the generality of humanity. Also, his work is above the collective. Therefore, to the wise of the externals, he is considered an imaginative and crazy person, since he is like the crazy that are outside of the normal collective. The difference is that the actual crazy person is below the society, while the worker Kabbalist is above the society.
Well, I guess what's really interesting is for someone to call themselves a Kabbalist, why are they above the society, and why do they get the ability to call themselves a Kabbalist, and what makes somebody above the society? What are they doing differently than the rest of the society? Even to the society, what are they doing differently?
Well, if you look at the 4 phases, phase 1 is looking for filling. Phase 2 is looking for meaning. It doesn't actually want to become the creator. It doesn't want that power and that responsibility. It just wants meaning in life. And that's why you'll see many people, they come into the society and they plateau and they relax, because what they're looking for is not power. They're actually just looking for meaning. And once they're given meaning, they're like, oh, the reason why this is happening is because of, this is what happened to Adam Rishon when he broke, he ate from the tree. And then people are like relaxed. Oh, so there's meaning in life. And now now I understand. I'm okay with it. And that's a passive point in the heart. An active point in the heart already wants power. It's like, no, I'm actually designed to become the creator. I need to connect to that power source and then express it and use it accordingly. So depending on the stage of your point in the heart, you will be in different situations. So if you don't have the point in the heart or it's concealed totally, then you're in humanity. If it shows itself but it's passive, you'll want meaning in life. And if it's active, then it's like, no, I actually want power of the creator. And that will decide which phase you actually stay in. So only someone who has an active point in the heart, which is really burning in him to become this, will actually reach that phase 4 and then pass the barrier.
So we can almost look at the society and say, you're in the klipot, you're feeling the klipot, or you're above the klipot. You could actually make a societal reference with that.
Exactly. So phase 1 and phase 2 are in the klipot. Phase 3 feels it's in the klipot, and then phase 4 is already like getting to the point where it's going to go out of it. So passing the barrier is when you're outside of the klipot, you're outside of those 14 sphirot of the klipot, and you're in double concealment. You're in the klipa and you have no problem with it. You don't even notice you're in the klipa. And single concealment is already when you know you're in the klipa and you want to actually leave it.
Zaka, I got a question for you regarding klipot. Regarding klipa, is there now, can you subdivide that into a left klipa and a right klipa? So maybe one person will be on a left klipa or somebody's another right klipa, or is it interchange, or how does that whole work? How does that whole thing work?
So we went over it in the second translated article, if you remember, that there's the shell of Ishmael and the shell of Esav. Where the shell of Ishmael, which is a right shell, is when you want to connect with the environment but without anything for yourself. You don't, you have no aspiration of self, which is the left line. And then you have the left line klipa, where you only have the aspiration of self, and it's very hard for you to relate to the environment. It's very hard for you to know how to deal with them. So when you're in the left line of Esav, you're like, I'm doing it all, and this society sucks, this environment sucks, I don't understand what's going on here, why they're not advancing, they're stopping me, I'm to get rid of these idiots. And then a right line klipa, when it will look at, a left line person's like, he's out of order, he's not doing what everybody else is doing, why is he, he just, he has to get rid of his ego, we're all just here to connect and do what the Rav tells us to do, and this person is, breaking the rules, and doesn't he know that we have to do what Rabash and all the previous Kabbalists to know what's best for us? So that's a right line klipa, where you have no desire to actually reach anything yourself. You're just like, I'm just one with everyone. I'm equal with my environment.
But can you say that you move from one to the other, or is it always steady in one?
So people have a tendency to be a left line or right line person, and therefore they'll fall in the shell accordingly. So someone who's a left line person will have a tendency to fall more into the left line klipa of Esav. So you'll be like, I don't understand this environment, they're not advancing, I want to advance, what's happening over here? They suck. And then a right line person will have a tendency to fall more into the right line klipa, which is Ishmael, where he's like, I don't have to reach it, my friends will reach it first. Like, I care about the friends, I want the environment, I really care about everybody, and oh, I can advance later. There's no pressing issue. I just have to connect, and I'm doing what Rav is telling me to. So I'm a good boy. I'm a good boy or a good girl, and everything's fine, and everything's good. And you can see how, on one hand, the left suffers more, but that's why they advance faster. So a left-line person he advances through the phases faster than a right-line person. It doesn't mean the right-line person doesn't reach it. He reaches it, but he reaches it slower because he has less of that burning inside that constantly pushes him to the next level. So the person of the left line, his whole work is to know how to manipulate and deal with the environment accordingly. And then a right-line person, all his work, most of his work, he already knows how to deal with the environment. His problem is how to build this internal desire of becoming this unique individual, one unique and unified.
Thank you very much. That was awesome.
No problem. Okay, here's the next one. Number 4, the first degree. Bala Sulam, from the book Hakdamot Sulam, the article Essay of the Mediating Teacher. Whoever is not able to differentiate with clear distinction between helpful and harmful, the Creator will definitely not bring that person close, and they have no hope until they have discerned with a clear and complete mind, and that it has permeated their senses, literally expanded in their organs. The reason is because when a person approaches the king, there is a law that the king has to fill the wishes of the person's heart. Therefore, if the person cannot make a distinction between useful and damaging, there cannot be a situation where harmful desires will not mix in their request. The king cannot fulfill such requests in full and harm the person, since from the good no bad should be extended. Therefore, such people are distanced from the king as long as they do not know how to discern between good and bad.
Wait a sec. The light that reforms is just supposed to come because I'm in a morning lesson.
Of course not. The light that reforms is basically your future state, and the more discernment you have on your future state, that brings the light that reforms you. It's your future pulling you forward. It's not the light that reforms of something that happened, before creation or anything like that. It's like an advertisement. So you're seeing your future state. It's faith. That means that you don't have it currently in your perception. So it's something you don't have a clue about, and you have to start getting a clue about it. You have to have importance for it. Since in every degree you're leaving your current perception, which is considered death, and you're moving on to your next perception, which is considered life. But to able to do that transition, you have to have importance for the next degree. The reason why I brought these paragraphs is because sometimes I'm asked, what is stopping us from passing the barrier? And this here, gives a great summary about it. The only reason you don't have that power is because you don't know how to differentiate between good and bad. And only once you can able to differentiate what is good, which means what will help me advance, and what is bad, which means what will make me plateau, only when you have that clear in your mind, clear and crystal, then that's called passing the barrier, where you can actually start building that power and then expressing it accordingly, because you actually know that you won't sort of ask from the system something that will slow you down, or something that will be detrimental to you or be harmful. So the idea is that you'll only get close to the king when you know how to differentiate between good and evil. And that's the idea of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So coming down, when we ate from it, it destroyed us, put us in reality. But going up, we actually have to eat from that tree of knowledge of good and evil to able to become a God that knows how to differentiate between good and evil. And then from then we can actually reach above that, which is the tree of life. It's written in the Holy Shla. He writes, and he quotes Rikanti and some other sages that say that the tree of knowledge and the tree of life are actually the same tree. So the same tree with different branches. And it says that Tiferet is the tree of good and evil, and Bina is the tree of life. So the idea that we're currently in Tiferet, which means that we're in our experience, and we have to gain discernment in order to then raise ourselves to live in Bina, which means crossing the barrier, which then we have access to the tree of life. So we have to go through those transitions.
So, like most people would say that they know the difference between good and bad. but is it actually that we have to learn the differences between the opposites and how to actually discern and work them for our growth?
Well, the problem is the definition of what is good and bad. So most people, they'll say they know what is good and bad by good is what is good for society and bad is what is bad for society. So, for example, good will be, helping an old lady across the street. Well, bad is robbing that old lady. And that's what they see as good and bad. Good is what I do, which is good. And bad is what I do, which is bad. And here it's not talking about action. It's not talking about what we do in reality. It's talking about our perception. So good becomes what advances me. And bad becomes what doesn't advance me. So, for example, bad would be when I'm dealing with concepts that have no relation to me whatsoever. So you'll sometimes see people plateau where they're like, they start taking the Ari itself without Bala Salam, they start reading it, and they start reading the Shal Kavanot, which is the intentions book, and they're like, oh, do you know what you're meant to focus on when you're saying the prayer on Rosh Hashanah? You're meant to focus on this letter, on that letter, and they're like really deep into it. And did you know that the gematria, which is the numerical value of this word, means that, and this sentence means this? And do you know about the celestial moons? And do you know at the time of Rosh Hashanah a spiritual portal opens? And they deal with lots of stuff which is totally unnecessary. So that is bad. It's bad for your advancement.
Right. So you have to recognize them both and know how to work them in the system. You have to still be able to see the opposites and understand them.
Exactly. We don't have to experience them. So you can know that killing is bad. You don't have to actually kill someone to find out. You don't have to smoke to know that smoking is bad. So the idea is that's why in this generation we're so lucky, because we get to see so many movies and so many experiences that we normally wouldn't have ever experienced in our lives. Someone in 100 years ago, how much they would have experienced in their life, in their small town. The amount of knowledge they would get, the amount of experiences, the amount of awareness. Like we see awareness today of issues that 20 years ago we weren't aware of at all. And then everyone's like, oh, the world is getting a worse place. No, these things were happening then. Like rape and killings and stuff were happening then. There was just no awareness of it. Right. When we find out a person, did rape 20 years ago, when we find about it now, that's not because the world is now bad. It's actually better. Now we know about something that happened 20 years ago. So it happened beforehand. It didn't happen now. And because of all the movies and stuff, I can talk as if I experienced so much more stuff, but I've never experienced this stuff. Like, I don't travel very much. I've never been in America. I've never been in stuff, but I know a lot of trivia about America. And I know the situations, and I watch The Daily Show, and I watch the Last Week Tonight, and I watch all this stuff that I never would have experienced by myself. I've never would have experienced this wide range of people to talk to without being in the age of the internet. And that's the concept of after 95, the salvation starts. And you could say that the internet was basically around that time. So it allowed the physical connection to be ready for us then to add the spiritual counterpart on top of it.
It is true. The internet did definitely start around that time, 95. That's very true, around that time.
Everyone, so many people are aware of what's happening, with that little boy, which was, in Syria, so many situations that without the internet, we would have no clue about it. We might have read something in the newspaper, but that would be about it. And here everyone's active on it on social media, and oh, did you see the picture? And you see the videos, and you see on Facebook, and this and this and that. We have so much more awareness, and we're dealing with issues that have no effect on our lives at all.
Just look at it. Look at this. This is a perfect example of it. I've been around computers and programming my whole life, and doing a video chat with 9 people right now, perfectly, flawlessly, great connection, amazing, who would have even thought of something like this,
Exactly. It never would have happened before. I'm in Israel. Most of you in America, there would be no chance of us able to do this we're doing this 3 times a week now. This wouldn't be possible before the internet. So you can see as the connections grow, the physical connections, it allows us to then get much more discernments that we would never have been able to get beforehand.
You accidentally said the word procession instead of perception, and you could have been right. Some of us are moving on. Anyways, but just back to the importance. Just curious if, well, a lot of us talked about these phases. A lot of us talk about going through them and this and that. We have an educational center that does a good job that all brought us to a certain point. But I'm just really curious if a soul can't really explain the four phases, is there enough importance for them to be able to develop? Like, how do you call yourself an instructor without the ability to speak about the basics? And there's an even larger point that I'm really curious on, or just I'd love to hear an explanation. The EC, everything that's been done, everything that B'nai Baruch has set up is perfect. So what is the responsibility? Some of us have a certain responsibility. We set certain things up, and then other people come along, they set more up. So just this cascading and this development. Was that hearable?
Yeah, it's fine. Just like we see it in physicality, we see how our parents made situations for us and they didn't move the next mile, but that's our job to move the next mile. The reason why the society doesn't deal with the whole phases issue is because they're not actually interested in advancing. They're interested in meaning of life, annulling yourself to the society, doing what the Rav says, and that's it. And end of story. So why would they talk about the phases of how you advance and what version number you're in? Or, oh, I'm in 3.1. Oh, you're in 4.4. Oh, I'm in 3.2. You're a 2.1 person. They wouldn't deal with that stuff because they don't care about it. Most of the society, I'd say 99% of the society, is going to plateau in this phase 2, in this concept of meaning is all I need. You give me meaning of life and I'm relaxed. That's all I need. So you come to a person like that and you're like, do you know you're at 2.1, 2.2? He doesn't care. He doesn't have the goal to become power. So that whole scale of becoming the creator doesn't mean anything to him. So the idea is that I don't see the EC anytime soon talk about this because that's not a phase 2. That's not a society role. The society's role is to give an environment, just like the humanity gives an environment for the spiritual society to grow in. The spiritual society gives a place for the group to grow in, and the group gives a place for the individuals to grow in. So the individuals will do work that the group won't, and the group will do work that the spiritual society does, that the group will do work that the spiritual society doesn't do, and the spiritual society will do work that the humanity doesn't do. And it's okay that everyone's doing their part. So I don't have to deal with politics and stuff because I know that phase 1, which is most of the world, which is 99%, will deal with that. And I don't have to deal with the society issues because 99% of society will deal with that. So, most of my focus is on phase 3 and phase 4, which is the group and the individuals, because that's where I see I have something to offer them. While the society doesn't care about that, so I don't go to them. And so you won't see the EC suddenly talking about phases and you won't see, Mike suddenly saying, oh, I'm a 3.1 and it's, I've just finished 2.4 and I've advanced and it took me 4 months to do this. You won't see that whole details. You won't see those details. Number 4, the first degree, from Bala Sulam, from the book Akdamot Sulam, Essay of the Mediating Teacher. Whoever is not able to differentiate with clear distinction between helpful and harmful, the Creator will definitely not bring that person close, and they have no hope until they have discerned with clear and complete mind, and that it has permeated their senses, literally expanded in their organs. The reason is because when a person approaches the king, there is a law that the king has to fill the wishes of the person's heart. Therefore, if the person cannot make a distinction between useful and damaging, there cannot be a situation where harmful desires will not mix in their request. The king cannot fulfill such requests in full and harm the person, since from the good, no bad should be extended. Therefore, such people are distanced from the king as long as they do not know how to discern between good and bad.
It's telling you right there that if you can approach the king and you know how to distinguish between good and bad, there is a law that he will fill the wishes of the person's heart. It's amazing. So, it's sitting for you right there. But the only thing is, we don't know what the difference between good and bad is. You know?
And that's what we have to discern until we pass the barrier. So that's the whole work. That's called the work of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And it says you can't give a person the work of the tree of life, which is after the barrier, before they finished their work of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, differentiating, understanding what really is good and what really is bad. So, when we're in lower phases, our concepts of good and bad are very, they deal with issues of, good is when people are being nice to each other and helping. And if all we just, if the whole world reached, in relaxation and everyone just helped each other, the world would be a better place. But from a Kabbalistic perspective, that's called death, because you just plateau and there would be no tension to make you want to advance to a higher level of perception. And that's the whole goal. The whole goal is to reach that absolute power. It's to reach relaxation, but not on death, which is zero amount of power, but to reach relaxation because you have so much power that no one can stop you. And that's what it means when we say that the Creator is in complete rest. He's in complete rest because he has so much power that no one can oppose him. Not that he's in complete rest, that he's doing nothing.
What did you say was the tree of good and evil? Is that tree of knowledge? And then the tree of life is after the barrier? Is that what you said?
Exactly. The tree of good and evil, the tree of knowledge, is before the barrier. And then you have the work of the tree of life, which is after. Just like when we came down, Adam was above the barrier and in the Garden of Eden, when he crashed down, so he fell, because he ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, he fell into reality. So now when we're going back up, we're doing the process, reverse. So we're first correcting what we did wrong when we ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which gave us that sense of I, the sense of reality. We're correcting that now to understand what is good and evil, what is, get that knowledge in order to go back up and then reach adhesion with the Creator. So we had to fall down to go back up. So after the barrier, that's when you're dealing with the tree of life. You're dealing with the tree of power. Life is power.
That's interesting. The way in this particular setting, I see this as the biggest macroscopic of it all in the way of the direction, because here you're saying, he started from the tree of life down to the tree of knowledge, and then we have to go back the same way, the tree of knowledge and then back tree of life. But in the four phases of direct light and how all creation started, it started from top down, from all the way down, and we have to ascend the same way in that same direction, but that's called bottom up.
Exactly. So you'll see some concepts where we have to go, the way we came down is the exact same way we go back up. So just like we came down to reality was formed through phases 1, 2, 3, 4, first restriction, second restriction, breaking of the vessels, creation of Adam Rishon, breaking of Adam Rishon, and then finally, the Big Bang and reality was created. Now we're going through that same process, going back. So we're going through the 4 phases, then we pass the barrier, then we pass the parasa, then we reach Atzilut. Beforehand our intention breaks, which is breaking of the vessels. Then we go into Atzilut. Then we are going to create our man and continue going up until that Big Bang at the end of perception, not Big Bang of reality. That's on one hand. On the other hand, you have concepts where the way you go down, you go back up just the way you came down, but not inverse. So on the first way, when we're saying instead of going top down, we're going bottom up, we're talking about if we came down 1, 2, 3, 4, we go back up 1, 2, 3, 4. While there are some concepts where they're inverted, where if I go down 1, 2, I go back up 2, 1. And again, that's differentiating between those concepts to understand which is one way and which is the other.
Yeah. I just wanted to verify that. That's definitely. I just wanted to verify that for sure.
It's fine. The idea is you can read the Torah, the stories, and you can read them how most of people read them. So they read them from top down. They read it as the way reality was created. So, you had Adam Rishon and you had his wife, and they were in the Garden of Eden. Even if we're talking about, of course, spirituality, but that thing, and then the snake came and made them eat from the tree of knowledge, and then they fell, and then that's reality. So we always look at the snake and at the tree as a bad thing. While when we're going back in a perception, they actually become good things. So the snake is actually the person who comes to you and says, why are you staying in the society? Actually advance. And then the tree of knowledge of good and evil, he comes to you and says, don't you want to become powerful? Don't you want to become the creator? You have to differentiate between good and evil. And by eating the tree means intention, then you can actually reach that and become a power source. So, connect to the power source and become God. Know the difference between good and evil. So you can see how the same story can be seen on a negative when it's going down, but a positive when it's going up.
That's definitely interesting, and I love the language of branches. How it's the Kabbalists wrote the language where it really depends on the level of perception somebody's at. When they read it, they perceive it a different way. Like, Kabbalists that read the Torah will completely see it from highest perception, but somebody that doesn't will see it in a corporal matter. It's just amazing how this language is decoded in a way where it hits so many different perceptions. It's incredible.
What is the perception that it's all good?
What is the perception that it's all good? Could you add more details to the question?
You see the bad that you perceive as bad, but you see the good, but you see that it's all good, because even the bad is for your benefit. I don't know how else to explain that.
I think I understand. When we're going up, we need to, on one hand, differentiate between good and bad for us, but on the other hand, understand how the system is perfect. And they're not contradictory. So the idea is that if I'm advancing, which is good, and I leave the bad, they're not actually bad in themselves. They're only bad compared to my growth. So for my growth, it's considered bad. But from a system perspective, it's actually perfect. It's fine that people plateau in humanity. It's fine that people plateau in phase 2. It's fine that people plateau in the spiritual society, in group, in individuals. That is perfect, because the idea is that they'll die and then they'll reincarnate and get to upgrade on the next level. Not everyone is going to finish it in this current lifetime. Only those who want to will reach it, and those who don't want to won't reach it. So there's no coercion in spirituality, and in that it's perfect. But it doesn't mean that we don't have to, for ourselves, categorize stuff. So when we're saying it's good and bad, we're not saying it's good and bad absolutely. We're saying it's good and bad relatively. So we're talking about our growth. Just like when you have a kid, there are things that are good for him to make him grow, while for somebody else, that might actually be good for them, but for him, it's specifically bad. So for a baby, mother's milk is great. But when you're older, mother's milk is not going to give you the nutrition you need to actually grow. So you need to deal with the situations accordingly. And it's always going to be good and bad relatively. So can you say, if someone grows up and says, oh, mother's milk is bad. It's like, no, it's not bad. It's good. It's good for babies. So you have to know for each phase what they need. And when we're saying good and bad, we're talking about relatively to me in my growth, and not from a system perspective. From a system perspective, everything has its place. Nothing is bad. Everything is good.
So you have to have an understanding of their subtle influences?
Exactly. Look how much we use humanity. What we're using now, the internet and all that stuff is made by phase 1 people. So you don't want to get rid of them. Otherwise, how are we going to get connected in the first place? And you don't want to get rid of the society because they're providing a platform, first of all, that we met through the society. We wouldn't have met without the society. I'd never have met you. So you need to understand the subtleties of why every phase is needed and why it's okay that phase 1 is not just immediately reaching phase 4. You need people to deal with those issues at hand, and you need that to be their priority for them. You can't have someone who wants to become a Kabbalist starting to deal with the agriculture problems or the problems of is there too many toxins in the air. That's not what you're meant to deal with, but you need other people to deal with that for you. So you have phase 1 to deal with those issues, and you can focus on higher issues. And you'll have people that plateau in phase 2. They'll deal with the society. They'll deal with, having the lessons and taking care of it and translations and releasing books of the original material. You don't have to deal with that stuff. You can deal with the higher stuff. You're, for example, dealing with the group. So the idea is that everyone deals with the level that they're in, and when they advance to the next level, then they move on to higher things, and they let the people which are plateauing in that degree to deal with that degree. So you don't want to go to phase 2 and say to them, you're doing it all wrong, you should stop dealing with all this stuff, and you should focus on, stop trying to translate all these, archaic Bala Salam things that we don't need right now, we'll only need them in the future, and let's focus on, translating the stuff we need to pass the barrier. It's like, you don't go to phase 2 for that. That's what you have phase 3 for. So you have to know the subtleties of why everyone's perfect, but it's also perfect for you to decide what you're going to choose.
I read or I heard today in one of the readings that we had this morning, when there is corruption, there is correction.
Exactly, the revelation of corruption is the correction itself. It's like, as we grow, we'll feel the distance between ourselves and the spiritual society and humanity and the group. And so you're like looking at it as bad, but that's actually good. That means you're growing your individuality. You still have to continue in physicality, connecting with all those low levels and understand that they're perfect as they are. And it's okay that if someone wants to advance, they advance. But if they don't want to advance, let them not advance. It's okay. So on one hand, you're revealing that evil, but that evil is actually good. That's showing the creator is the power source, but without the ego, there's no expression of that power. So for example, if you have a fridge, the fridge is ego, it's material, but it expresses, electricity. So you need both. And that's the concept of the creator expresses himself through the ego, through creation. So you have to understand that if you're getting more of that ego, that means that you're able to express more. If someone has a very small vessel, even if he passes the barrier, that's all the vessel he's going to have, and he's only going to be able to express that amount. So, there's a big difference between being a small satellite dish and a huge satellite dish. The bigger you are, the more you can express yourself, the more you can affect. So you want to grow to that maximum potential that you're designed for in your vessel, to then after the barrier, start using it for expression and filling it accordingly. Number 3, the crazy, the intellectual. Bala Sulam from the book Hakdamot Sulam, Essay of the Mediating Teacher. The externals imagine to themselves that the prophet or the Kabbalist has hallucinations and is crazy. This issue is required, and must be so, to the eyes of most of the world. This is written about Yehu, the son of Nishmi. Have you seen that crazy person? The reason is because the crazy person does not want to restrict itself in any way in the border that people define for themselves. Rather, all their work and goal is to be out of the ordinary. Therefore, anyone who wants to reach adhesion with the Creator, immediately his goal is above the collective, because this desire is not in the generality of humanity. Also, his work is above the collective. Therefore, to the wise of the externals, he is considered an imaginative and crazy person, since he is like the crazy that are outside of the normal collective. The difference is that the actual crazy person is below the society, while the worker, the Kabbalist, is above the society. Number 4, the first degree, Bala Sulam from the book Hakdamot Sulam, Essay of the Mediating Teacher. Wherever it's not able to differentiate with clear distinction between helpful and harmful, the Creator will definitely not bring that person close, and they have no hope until they have discerned with a clear and complete mind and that it has permeated their senses, literally expanded in their organs. The reason is because when a person approaches the king, there is a law that the king has to fill the wishes of the person's heart. Therefore, if the person cannot make a distinction between useful and damaging, there cannot be a situation where harmful desires will not mix in their request. The king cannot fulfill such requests in full and harm the person, since from the good no bad should be extended. Therefore, such people are distanced from the king, as long as they do not know how to discern between good and bad.
That's a wow moment.
What do you think?
Well, I think that it nailed it really, really good on what I'm seeing within myself a lot, as well as around me.
Let me show you the book again. So this is the book, and it's in Hebrew, and it was released this year. It's done by the students of Rabash. So they got together and made this company called Or Sulam. They have a website, and they have their like a lot of materials. And this is their second book they released. Their first book they released was on the Igrot, the letters of Bala Sulam, and they actually have their much more letters than the BB version has. I'll probably a few of them I actually want to translate because they're very good. So we can see as time goes by, there are much more. There's still, even though Bala Sulam, died in 1955, there's still more and more books being released of stuff that he wrote. You can see how much time he spent in writing articles. It's amazing work.
Yes, it is. I like what you've given to us, shown us. It's mind-boggling, but yet it's like it's already there. It's just we're perceiving it in a different way. We're adjusting our perception. Whereas it's like, wow, yeah, I see that now.
My goal of these sessions is to show, and I try each time to bring new material that a normal person in BB would never have touched. So it's either books from Berg, which are known to be not accepted in the society, or books of the religious groups of Bala Sulam, and to show that it's like I'm doing the filtering for you, so you don't have to go into these dangerous lands for fear of falling on something. I've already gone through them. I've read a lot of the nonsense in them, and I'm trying to show stuff that really talked to me. And so far, I'm seeing a positive thing that people like it as well.
I do, and I appreciate you sharing that with us.
You do an awesome job, Sakai.
I'm lucky that I speak both Hebrew and English. It's funny. I write the system articles in English, and some people ask me, why don't you write it in Hebrew? And one, I actually have no desire to write it in Hebrew anyway. My English is much better than my Hebrew as well. Plus, I see much more acceptance of the stuff from the English community than from the Hebrew community. So I'm just targeting an audience that wants this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Thank you very much, because for me, it's not that easy to read Hebrew. And then when you read articles like Bala Sulam wrote about crazy, like, first of all, it makes me feel really good to know that I'm not crazy, because you can say, throughout my whole life, and I see you guys all laughing because I know you guys are saying the same thing, is that you think you're crazy. Like my whole life, I was like, yo, I feel so alone, so crazy. Why am I thinking the way I am? And what the hell is driving me? I don't even understand. And then you see the power of the internet, right? To give you this opportunity to, again, help others advance, right? And not only that, but help others. If you've been through states already, you can help others go through those states. And I think that's great.
Welcome to the Virtual Mental Institute of Kabbalah.
It really is a mental institute.
It's totally mental.
How do you pad cyber walls?
At the end of the day, all these articles don't actually do the work for us. So it's still up to us to go read them, compare them to our situations. There's a an article in Chamati that talks about that there are certain discernments that you can share with people, and there's discernments you can't share. It's not talking about things you can say. It's talking about that everyone has their own perspective in life and their own situations that they've gone through that I will never go through, but I don't have to go through them. So the idea is that I just deal with the general issues that are, so you could say, the common denominator between us. And then each person, he has to do the work on himself and see how it applies to his life or his situations and his perception. The whole idea is that until the end of correction, we can't actually enter each other's perception. We're like single containers where our only place to work in is reality. So we have reality over here, and then each one has their pipe of perception, and you have the stony heart is what's stopping us from able to fall into each other's perception. So only when the whole world has reached that end of correction, where we're all connected to that one power source, then we can start, the stony heart can start to disintegrate, and then we can start, going into each other's perception, which those are the secrets of the Torah that Kabbalists don't talk about. They don't talk about it because they haven't attained it yet, because the world hasn't reached the end of correction. So they know about it, but they won't talk about it because they can't actually attain it in their own vessels. They can't go into your perception. They can go into your thoughts, but they're still going into your thoughts from their perception. So you could say it's like each of us are a security camera, and then the creator is looking at that screen which has all the security, like the pictures of all the security cameras at once. So instead of me living in your perception from my perception, the idea is that you would be able to have one perception that includes multiple perceptions. Again, you can see how it's above attainment at the moment. But the idea is that all the work that we're doing, we don't have to be scared of, oh, should I be sharing this? Am I taking away the work of somebody else? The idea is that we can't take away the work of somebody else. I can never do the work for you, and you can never do the work for me. What we can do is share discernments and talk and discuss and share articles that normally wouldn't have seen the light of day. But at the end of the day, each person has to do his own individual work on his perception and grow.
I want to bounce something off you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I'm just looking at this Article 4, and when we read about clear distinction between helpful and harmful, I can't help thinking of a situation that happened not so long ago. I'm in a little group of really great women, and I was aware of bestowal in order to receive. And then I started to see that the bestowal it became controlling and then manipulating. And then it spilled over into the physical, gaining in a physical, on a physical level. And I was really, really, really not comfortable with that. And I found myself withdrawing because I knew that I want to be influenced, and it should be helpful, but it's not helpful anymore. And I really don't know how to handle it. I really don't know. I still go to the group, but I feel I'm not sharing. I'm quiet. I'm not receiving anything. What can I do about that?
So again, the idea is that phase 2 has a tendency to be very controlling. The society has rules and regulations, and they want people to stick to that framework, right? And that's okay. The idea is that you have to be aware of it and not say, like, our first tendency to say this is wrong. It's perfect. You have to learn the rules of it to manipulate it accordingly, just like we do with humanity. So with humanity, you don't go running around saying to people, I want to become the creator. You hide that. You know how to manipulate humanity to get what you want. You have to do the same thing with the society. So you can't go to the society and start telling them, what don't you want to become powerful? Don't you want to become the creator? They don't want that. So you can't express that there. And you've got to understand that phase 2 wants control of the people, while phase 3 wants to empower each other. Remember, the trademark of phase 2, which is the spiritual society, is altruism without self-benefit. And you can see it even, in the society where people have no clue of any depth of what they're actually doing. It's all very shallow, but that's what they want. They want altruism without self-benefit. Self-benefit means knowing what you're actually doing. So if you're altruism without self-benefit, only the top knows what you're doing. Like an ant colony or, with bees, like you only have a top and then everybody else just follows orders. And that's what phase 2 is designed for. And that's perfect. Phase 3 already wants to deal with empowering each other, wanting to give people knowledge, wanting to share knowledge with each other, workshopping, and not just workshopping saying answers which are just like, regurgitated, like repeated stuff, but rather giving interpretations that somebody else wouldn't hear. I love going to these sessions and to the young group where it's mixed, because that's the only places where I can actually hear what women think. As a religious person, I don't normally talk with women. These are places where I can actually interact and hear what women have to say that I wouldn't hear in the normal main group, where there's a separation between men and women. So you can see how each level gives me something special that the other levels can't give me, the other phases can't give me. So once you understand that and agree with it and annul to it, then you can actually start to use it. So it's, I actually have, I think one of the articles, I think it's 71 or 72, they talk about you first go through annulment, then you start to differentiate, and then you can sweeten the deal. So you first annul, say the system is perfect as it is, then you go to differentiate, let me understand why is it perfect, what makes the parts, what am I meant to get from each thing. When I go to a supermarket, I don't go to them for an oil change. I go to the car dealer for an oil change. But if someone was, uncorrected, he would go to the car dealer and say, where's my vegetables? He's like, we don't give vegetables. Oh, you're a terrible supermarket. It's like, we're not a supermarket, we're a car dealer. And then you go to the supermarket and you're like, you're going to give me an oil change? It's like, no, we don't do oil change. We have vegetables if you want them. So the same thing, you have to go through each phase and know, phase 2, you have to go to them for what they can give you. And if you had problems, it means you were going to them for an oil change, but they were a supermarket. And you have to go to the group for what the group can give you. The group can give you more of those discernments, they're sharing. Like now, this is like a group where we're sharing with each other. We have free talk. We're not going to tell each other you can't talk about that, or you can talk about that, or it's not appropriate to talk about that. Like one of the reasons I allow this free flow, and if things are said which are inappropriate, I edit them afterwards. But still, I give a platform that people can talk freely and feel easy. That you can't sometimes feel in phase 2, where you've got to make sure that you don't say things that are inappropriate. You can't, say things about the society. You can't be like, is it okay that they're doing this? You can't say that in phase 2. They see that as what you're not trying to just join us. So the idea is that by knowing what each phase deserves and can give you, then you can understand how the system is perfect. Because you're like, for male, I go to the male people. And for vegetables, I go to the supermarket. And for an oil change, I go to the car dealer. And then suddenly the system works out. And you're like, wow, I can actually get whatever I want. I just have to know who's the right place to go to.
Okay, great.
And it's also beneficial to go through those phases so you know that, no, that wasn't it. That's not getting me to where I need to be. And then you move forward. And so it's important. It's that knowing the good and the bad of what's going to make you plateau. That into it.
Right.
So.
This is exactly, I can distinguish clearly what is helpful and what is not. So I continue to go because I really understand it's helping me to secure what I want and what I need. So I'm not going to stop, but how do I not say anything? Just annulling myself and pretend that everything's okay and sharing on that level.
Exactly, just like you do with humanity. You don't go to people, in humanity and start saying, oh, we want to bestow, we want to become like the Creator. You don't tell them that kind of stuff. Why? Because you understand that that's not how you're meant to interact, communicate with that phase. When we're correcting our communication with each other, it's understanding how each person is in a different phase and knowing what the interface with that person is. We're like computers. We have interfaces. We have each person, you have to give them specific parameters for them to respond to you correctly. And if you shove information down, a person who is not built for that, you're going to get a bad response. It's going to be like error, unknown command. You need to, just like with a computer, you don't go to Word and say you're a terrible Excel, and you don't go to Excel and say you're a terrible Word program. Like this Excel, you're the worst word editing program I've ever met. It's like, yeah, but I'm Excel. I do tables. I do a spreadsheet stuff. And you go to Word for writing documents and stuff. So again, it's like, you know, when you get a new phone, you at the beginning get frustrated because you're like, I don't understand why it's not working. And then when you understand how to use it, then it becomes a nice and enjoyable experience. And that's what it means when we're learning Kabbalah. We're learning how are people like robots? How do they respond? How do they work? We're not all equal. We're actually very different. And we have different version numbers. And depending on our version numbers, you have to talk to them according to the version number. They have different features and different abilities, and you have to deal with it. And that's what we're doing here. We're learning how to respond, how to interact, and then life actually becomes a very enjoyable experience.
Thank you.
No problem.
I think the meetings will be much, much different now that I know a little bit more what's going on. Thanks.
That's the idea of shining on the light. That's the idea of sharing discernments with each other, where we can share experiences. You know, I've been in the Jerusalem group now 2 years, and they are not aware of my advancement at all. There's only 2 people in the entire Jerusalem group that actually know what's happening with me. And it's because they're my individuals. They're people that I talk to on a day-to-day basis, and they know what's happening to me, and they know what I'm going through, my experiences, my situations. But the rest of them, totally out of, they don't know, and they don't care. And they're the same.
Thanks.
Again, it's all about correcting our perception. The reality is perfect as it is, and it's understanding how to relate to all the things around us. So, you know, we look around and people are dying, and we think that's bad, and it must be the egos that are doing that. But the Creator is controlling the ego. The ego has no free choice whatsoever. It has the illusion of free choice, but no actual free choice. The Creator is doing everything. The Creator did everything from killing people, from doing suicides to manipulating people. It's all the Creator. And what we've got to learn is his system of rules and why he does that thing. Why does he cause killings? Well, most of it, if you notice, is the not the killing itself that bothers us, but rather the sensation around it. So when an old person dies at the age of 120, no one's going to be like, oh, he died so young, such a sad situation, oh, this is terrible, right? You're like, he's 120, it's okay for him to die. So when we see someone die younger, you know, they already died at the age of 38. But he got so much done in his life. You know, when you see the vast amount of stuff, Bala Sulam died at the age of 69. But when you look at the vast amount of stuff he did in his life, he lived like someone who was living 700 years. Well, you can have these people in Japan and stuff, and you see them, they're like old and crooked, and they're like 113, and they're like, how did you survive? They're like, we just, you know, drink tea and like hardly do anything all day. We meditate all day. It's like, yeah, you've lived a long time, but you're doing nothing in that life. So you can have someone die younger, but doing so much in their life, and you can have someone older that they're doing nothing in their life. That's why they say that you can go through 3 reincarnations and have 0 spiritual growth, and you can have total spiritual growth in 1 month. So it's all about understanding the system and understanding that the reason why the sensation, the media, like think about it. What was it? 15 years ago, there was no such concept as a 24-hour news channel. And today we're bombarded with so much news every day. It doesn't mean that there's more news. It just means we're shown as if there's more news. And they'll repeat the same information multiple times. So you think like, oh, this is new stuff. But if you actually think about it, they're just showing rehashed stuff. Lots of this stuff happened. Yes, there's more people in the world, so the amount of atrocities will grow accordingly. But when you actually look at what we're bombarded from the media, it's so much higher than what might be actually happening in a certain situation.
You know, Zach, I like how you said, you know, it's a good little mantra you could say that you can do. Sometimes you forget to say, hey, everything is perfect, and to try to find all the reasons why it is, even when it seems like it's not. You know what I mean? Like as an exercise, like when you know everything is seemingly terrible. You say, oh, everything's perfect. My perception isn't there that it is. So let me try to, you know, at least that's the desire. That's a good desire to have, to sort of like push yourself to try to find that perfection. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the idea is to actually do both of things. So most people, what they'll do the annulment, where they're like, everything is perfect, but then don't move on to the second phase, which is differentiating, discerning, and actually understanding. How can I actually get to the point where I actually understand what's happening and not just be like, oh, the creator's doing everything, I'm in good hands, eno milvado, which is, there's no one else besides him, or hakol tova, which is everything's for the best. Like many people say that all day long, hakol tova, everything's for the best, everything's for the best. Best for who? No one asks, and no one figures out, like, maybe we should actually learn and understand the system within reason. So the reason we go above reason is to always take the next phase, bring it to our current phase, then it becomes within reason, and then we have the next phase to move on to. And you have to constantly do that. So it's not enough to just say, oh, there's my future state, and I'll do nothing now. And it's not good to say, oh, I'll just do everything in my current state, and I don't care about my future state. Those are the left and the right lines. The right line is, there's my future. The left line is, there's only my present. Right? That's why in left lines we tend to like eat ourselves up. We're like, oh, there's no future. That's what a left line is. In the right, you have, there's a future, and you feel so good that there's future, but it's hope, because you're not actually trying to internalize it. So you have to convert that hope into faith by using the left line, by actually saying, I don't want just to be there. I want to bring it to my level. I want to bring my future state to my current state, and then I'll have my next state, which will be above reason. And you have to constantly shift through those states. Like, power is the ability to change states. And we want able to go through those. And that's why we need the combination of the left, which is our desire, and the right, which is our goal, which is our future.
I think sometimes we're forced to do that by the little pushes of what we think as corruption, and it pushes us inside ourselves to look at our situations and say, okay, what is it that I need to see about myself that I'm not seeing and correcting? And then I stand outside myself and I say, what do I need to be learning from this? What is it that I'm not perceiving about everything around me, and bringing it in? And then I walk, and then I walk, and then I handle it in the way that without my feelings of, why me, woe me, it's all good, and see it as good, and then feel good about it, feel good that it is good, and feel the goodness, and because I feel like I've been beat down, and I keep rising back up and saying, it's all good. It is all good, because I'm seeing more and more of the perception that I need to see inside of me, and all of that's around me. I'm bringing it in and discerning, what it is that I haven't been seeing. And that's why I'm being forced to.
The difference between the path of pain and the path of Torah, notice that it's path of Torah, not the path of no pain. The path of Torah is the path of pain, but with discerning it, but discerning it actively. So the path of pain is where you're hit by the system, and then you're like, okay, I guess I've got to discern this right now. Like, oh, my boss just fought with me, or my wife just fought with me. Oh, I guess I've got to discern this right now. That's the path of pain still. The path of Torah is when you're discerning it even before the situation happens. You anticipate things. You see that, oh, my wife is getting a little moody. That probably means that she'll be, saying that I've done something terrible, which probably I haven't. I've got to just accept it and understand that she's in a situation that she needs help and support her. While if I'm just reacting, I haven't got that ability to start analyzing the situation and anticipating what's going to happen. It'd be like the difference between a weight falling on someone, which is the path of pain, and someone going to a sport gym to actually raise weights. The difference is that when you're raising weights, you're in control of it. You're understanding, okay, I'm now picking up 10 kilos, it's lovely. But if someone just threw on you now 10 kilos, that would hurt. So the idea is to actively discern. And when the system is basically hitting you, it's basically a sign saying you're not moving fast enough. And that's okay as well. So the idea is that when a situation like this happens, the first thing is to reach that annulment, to say it's perfect the way it was, and there was no chance in any way that it would have been any different. So it's perfect the way it is. Now I need to work on the next. So the idea is that when we say that the Creator does everything, we shouldn't let that stop us from movement. It shouldn't freeze us. We should say he did everything in the past. But the future, I don't know what's happened. It's like when you're watching a movie. You don't come to the movie and say, oh, it's all pre-shot. Everything that's meant to happen will happen in the movie. You watch it, and every moment you're like, oh, anything could happen. There could be a plot twist. You don't know. So just because this movie that we're in has been pre-shot and predetermined doesn't mean we don't have to play our part, and we have to anticipate and say, no, I can actually change this. And if I change it, it means it was meant to be changed from the beginning. The right line klipa, which is called lavan, which is white, is when we say, oh, I can't do something because I'm not ready. And it's like, oh, we tend to fall into sort of this feeling of depression, like, well, I'm not built for it, Zakai. Other people, they're built for this, they're actually got they're strong, they're courageous. Me, I'm a weakling. I don't have I'm just not built for this whole Kabbalah stuff. I can't do that. And there's many people that, do this. They fall into this right line klipa of Lavan. They're like, oh, it's white, I'm black. I guess I'm not ready to do this mitzvah. I'm not ready to move forward. And then you got someone on the left line klipa, which is called Esav, is where he's like, I did everything. It was all me. I don't need the help of anybody. I don't need my society. I don't need my environment. I did it all. Without you, you would be nothing. You hear me? And that's what a left line person will say, right? He's saying it's all dependent on his desire alone. And he's not understanding the situation, why he actually needs the environment to continue growing in. And you need to have the middle line where you understand the environment, but you also understand I'm built for this. I'm designed to reach this using the environment around me.
I've seen some of the things happening before they actually happened, and I was able to handle it a lot better than just waiting for it to happen. So it was a lot easier for me.
Zach, you should give the example with the train, like when it goes back and forth, when you don't feel it after a while. That's a good example.
So give the example.
Okay, I'll tell her. It's like this. It's like when you're on a train, right? It's like if it moves slow, you're going to feel the bumps, You're going to feel it's a bumpy ride. But if you can speed up the train, you're still moving, but you don't feel any bumps. It's just, it's just like, steady and smooth. So basically you just got to speed up the advancement. You have to desire that. And it's fine. Everything's great. I've been there too, believe me. But you just got to speed up. That's it. Just got to desire that and do it.
And do it with the friends. A tendency of left line people is that they want to go through these scents alone. They don't want to contact anyone. They don't feel that they're like, I can do this alone. I have to do this alone. No one can help me. And it's like, no, you can actually go and contact someone and get help. And then you have the right line person, which on any slight thing immediately contacts everyone. Like, everybody help me. It's like, try and deal with this alone. Try and, handle it, go through the situation. And then after the situation is over, then contact the friends and say like, oh, what should I do now? How did it go? Was I okay? Was this analyze it with the friends. So you need that middle line where you want to contact the friend, but you have to know when, you should always try to do it alone. But if you see that it's not going anywhere, like if you've got a descent and it's lasting more than a few hours, contact a friend. Like that's not meant to be. Descents are meant to be very short. Sometimes I have descents of 2 minutes, and so then I move on, and then I don't have to call a friend because it's already over. So if I don't call a friend, it's like I need to talk to you, and 2 minutes later, it's like, oh yeah, I don't need it anymore. So you don't want to bother your friends that way. But if something's going on for more than an hour or 2 hours or something like that, like contact a friend. Or if it's something that you're really emotionally like having struggle with, contact a friend, and it's fine. It's part of the path. That's why we're given these friends. And the more you build this environment, that's what it means when we connect to the right line. The more we build our environment of the friends, then we can get better left lines. So we can get more concrete. We can get more detailed and deadlier left lines. They can be more painful and more pressuring, but they're more internal. So you can have left lines where nothing's happening externally. Everyone is happy with you. Everything's fine. And internally, you're burning on the stake. Those are quality left lines. So a non-quality left line, which is quantity, is when, oh, this person fought with me, or that person in the group, he pissed me off. Like, I hate him. And those are not quality left lines. Those are quantity. Those are physical left lines. Spiritual left lines is where everything outside is totally perfect. Nothing's wrong. And even when you're going through the descent, you understand that everything outside is perfect. You're not fighting with your wife. You're not fighting with your boss. You're not fighting with the group. Everyone's happy with you. Everyone thinks you're successful and lovely and a loving person. But internally, you're like burning on the stake. You're like, I don't understand. Why am I not advancing? And it burns you.
Or you have that fear that I'm never going to make it to that goal. And it builds my desire even more by having that fear.
But the idea is not to depend on it. So it's okay to go through these stuff, but you don't want to say, oh, I guess I just need fear all the time, because then you're basically inviting into your life fear just so you can, like you think, oh, without fear, I won't advance. Like who says? You can advance with enjoyment and love, and it can be great. And you don't need that. So if it comes to you, you needed it at that point, but you don't have to invite this. We still want to reach a path of pleasantness, of relaxation, but relaxation because I have control of the situation, because I have that power to handle that situation. So you'll notice every time you grow, previous situations aren't a bother for you anymore. You're like above it. Like, yeah, the society, I can deal with them. And then you move even higher, like the group, really? That person is angry with me? They'll be fine. They'll get over it the next day. And you go up, and one of the ways to actually see you advance is you start to categorize people. You're like, that person I can't deal with yet. And then you advance, and suddenly you're able to deal with them. You're like, you see, I'm actually advancing. I've now got the power to actually able to talk to that person. I'm able to overcome. I'm able to control him. I'm able to influence him. That's what bestowal is. So receiving is filling, and bestowing is power, when I can control my situation, control my environment. And that's what we want to reach. We want to reach that bestowal. In the end, to receive that filling, that relaxation, and just able to have total control of our situation, that is the end of correction.
That was nice, what you just said.
Which part?
We want to get to the Garden of Eden. That's the whole goal of creation, to get to the Garden of Eden. What else is there, right? To create a desire to be filled with endless delights. So here it is.
We reach it by becoming independent on each other. That's why, these sessions are so helpful for me personally. Every time afterwards, the next day I go and do editing and I hear it again, and I'm learning all the time. And I feel that these sessions are so productive. I want to do another session. It's not like, oh well, I've got to do another session to help the friends. It's like, no, I want to. This is my egoistic pleasure. Like, I enjoy this. I enjoy writing the articles. I enjoy, doing the Facebook page. I enjoy this whole thing. And that's why I keep on doing it. And so it's beneficial, I see, not only just for me, but for others as well. And it reciprocates. It goes back and forth, and it grows.
Just that it was great hearing everybody's answers and discernments, and taking a good look at things. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for coming. So thank you very, very much. And
Thanks everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Nechama, it was so good to see you. We've been
Thanks, Rick.
talking for years, and it's so lovely to hear your voice.
yeah, I'm so glad you joined Nechama. It's very nice.
Yes.
It took me so long to get here, but I'm really, really, really happy I'm here, and I want to thank all of you. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
Come again.
I feel I'm in a group, in a real group.
Use everything for discernments, as I have been told.
Well, Van Salam writes about that, so you know.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.